was hopeless. I was helpless. I had pulled money out of my IRA account that I had saved up for over 20 years.
The losses were like accumulating in my head because I kept telling myself, oh, you're just one big win away and then you're going to be fine and you can forget about it.
2 credit cards maxed out, a personal loan, a loan against my 401k. I mean, I was taking every avenue to get funds to gamble.
I just kept digging the hole. It was a terrible way to live.
In today's video, I'm sharing pieces of 10 different people's stories of gambling addiction and recovery. Before I dive into that, I have just one favor to ask of you. There's so many of you that watch this channel that aren't yet subscribed. If you want to support what we do here, the number one thing that you can do is hit that subscribe button. And my promise to you is that I will continue to make content each and every day with the intention of spreading awareness about gambling addiction.
All the common sense things that people would say, like, well, if you buy a lottery ticket, the odds of winning are so many millions to one, that isn't going to solve your problem. I would be focused on that 1 in 57 million chance. It is a very strange, inverted reality bubble that addiction, and particularly gambling addiction, builds up gradually, slowly but surely, inch by inch. I feel I dug my way into a private, personal hell of mine that I'd constructed, where I had very few friends and family around me because I'd pretty much managed to push everybody away or beg, borrow and steal off them to their limit of tolerance of me. I've put myself through self-neglect, self-hate, some really negative talk. I've asked myself questions over the years, over 10,000 times perhaps, where I've said, why am I so stupid? Why am I broken as a person? Why am I unable to control this when everybody else seems to be able to? That, again, it's very isolating to feel alone and the only person that cannot function as a normal human being would or does. The relief on finally reaching a rock bottom that took me into a GA room, the relief at finding out that I was not alone, that was a huge thing for me. I actually identified myself as a compulsive gambler or as a gambling addict probably in my early 20s. So I kind of admitted that I had a problem at that point, and I was quite open and honest with people in my life that I was a compulsive gambler, that I was a gambling addict, and that was who I was and what I did. And I don't think that at any point I had any belief that I could change that. I thought that was just who I was and that was what my life was going to be all about. I used to go in bookmakers' shops and see elderly gentlemen that are pensioners who are gambling very, very small, like 20 pence bets and drinking the free coffee that the bookmakers offer to keep you in there. I sort of developed over time a sort of hatred for those guys. And it was purely based on the fact that I could not see myself escaping that trajectory, that was who I was going to end up being.
I got to that place, where I was totally miserable. I was hopeless. I was helpless. I had pulled money out of my IRA account that I had saved up for over 20 years, probably like 40,000. I got hit back with penalties. I had about 14 credit cards. Like I had like 9 personal, like 5 business. Maxed all of them out. I remember one of my not last outings, but getting close to the end. I had lost, and this is this is relatively speaking, depending on who it is. But for me, as a small business owner and already on this path of destruction, I remember losing from Friday to Sunday, losing $10,000. And that feeling of sickness that came over me, I knew I was at rock bottom. It continued, man. It continued. And for me, I got to a place where I'm doing harder drugs, not just weed. And I just remember being in my room, in my 1-bedroom apartment. I didn't want to go outside. I didn't want to see the sun. I didn't want to face anybody. I wouldn't be around my family. I wouldn't return calls. My business was barely holding on. So, that was the beginning of me saying I need help.
Me and him went on like a 2-month winning streak. That's really what I guess hooked me on it. to want to keep going. We were up to like $2,500 off of essentially nothing. I don't know, that feeling of like just winning and getting that like income from watching football was like such a cool feeling for me. I had worked a little bit. I was an employee at Panera Bread, but like this made it feel so easy, and I felt like I never had to work, and I could just like sit at home watching football or even like basketball or anything and just like make money off it. A couple months go by. We're about to hit the new year into 2023. I ended up losing all the profit that I made, just like because I found myself being up at night, like trying to make these parlays that could like get me money back. Because like if I lost one, I wanted to win it back, and it was like that strong feeling of just wanting to win all the money back all the time. When that $5 a day promotion ended, they lowered it to $1 a day, and like I wasn't a big fan of that, so I was like, you know what, screw this. I'm putting my debit card in, and I'm gonna just add my own money. Because like in my head, I'm like, I'm just gonna win it anyway. I ended up losing $1,700 of my own money in the span of like a week. I didn't tell my boy that I was doing it with. I just like kept it to myself, but it was very frustrating. It didn't even feel like the losses were like accumulating in my head, because I kept telling myself, oh, you're just one big win away, and then you're going to be fine, and you can forget about it.
I can remember her last words to me. They weren't, I love you. They weren't, I'm proud of you. It was good luck. And in the moment, those words really crushed me. I was always seeking approval, love, not that she didn't provide it to me, but something that I felt I lacked from her. And was trying to find a connection in the end, and decided that I could turn to something that I felt she loved, that I felt that was something that was numbing her pain. And that was kind of what broke the camel's back. The day she died, I think I probably dropped $500 in 2 minutes. And that self-medication feeling, that dopamine, that numbness was all I needed. I just went with it. I couldn't really realize how far I was leading myself down the rabbit hole, and really creating more problems than avoiding them. And I started lying. I started cheating. I started betraying the people I love. I started doing everything we do as compulsive gamblers, and we suffer in silence. It's super easy to get into that place where you can hide anything and everything. You become a master of lies. We don't have something tangible to hold. We don't have a bottle. We don't have a needle, but we have the lies. We have the stories, and we have those machines. My phone became, a tool of destruction. I started getting worse and worse, getting further and further into debt. And at one point I started taking money. I couldn't stop. I knew I was doing something wrong, but physically I couldn't stop myself, because I knew it was either numbing my pain or going down a further route of suicide.
I discovered the online casino, which that was kind of the beginning of the downfall there. Not to jump around a lot, but the gratification period. With sports, you have to wait a few hours or a certain amount of time for something to finish. And then you find that while the game's going on, I can play blackjack on my phone. And then blackjack morphs into so many other games. And then before you know it, I'm playing slots, which I used to make fun of people playing slots. I thought it was crazy. And I'm doing it because I'm finding it the only way to get the gratification so quickly, and the only way to maybe hit a jackpot. It just started to snowball into something beyond placing a $25 bet on a football game. It became placing several $25 bets within such small increments. In a way, I created my bigger unit size. My background is in accounting, and I always thought of myself as reserved. Accountants generally have their finances in order, and I was just losing control of my time and money. And I felt my mental state like I'm just getting used to this, and I'm not really caring anymore.
I have just disassociated and been able to disassociate as a result of my gambling and be fully immersed in so much betting that my anxiety is gone because I'm not actually present, I'm not there. And that would then help me to go to places because, yeah, it's taking away that anxiety. But at that point in time, at that really early stage, it was just, hey, this is something that helps me explain my anxiety to myself, and I feel comfort in that, despite it actually doubling my anxiety. When I turned 18, you gave me an account with X amount of money in it, and I've been working since I was 14, but I've got $1,000 in my bank account. Which understandably, my parents were shocked about. I should have had, and in theory, I should have had $70,000 in that account plus, and that is pretty much what I gambled in that first year at 18. I was later diagnosed with ADHD, which also folds into the whole gambling. But at the time, I was just depressed, and so the GP that I saw, the doctor was just like, "Hey, take this." Antidepressant, and I got really sick of it. It took me to what I see as my first rock bottom, and in that darkness I started to gamble again just to find myself. Those tablets had started suicidal ideation. They had started just a lot of thoughts in my head that I was terrified of, and I had no idea how to deal with them. And gambling was the only thing that I can remember that was stable. Work's fallen apart, still got my job, but work's fallen apart, relationships fallen apart. Yes, money's going up. Okay, what can I do with the money? Nothing, because it's COVID. What's that one stable thing that I remember? Gambling.
This is during the height of COVID, right? So while I was working from home, I was doing other things, let's say. The absolute worst was using drugs and alcohol together with online slots. That had to be some of the worst times in my life. Using credit card deposits to play on online slots and digging myself into an incredible amount of debt. I've never felt lower, to be honest with you. It was not a good time in my life. 2 credit cards maxed out, a personal loan, a loan against my 401k. I mean, I was taking every avenue to get funds to gamble and to keep going with other addictions as well. I lived with 2 friends, one I grew up with and one I met in college. We lived together in an apartment in Chicago, and I still had some of that environment. Like, we'll watch a football game. It may have not been sun up to sundown every weekend, but it wasn't uncommon for us to watch 4 college basketball games, and we would all bet on them, right? Because we all have our legal accounts at this point. What happened at night when they would go to bed and my personal party would begin, the drugs, alcohol, and online slots, I don't think anybody knew about that. I always had a higher tolerance for risk than anybody else. Maybe they would make a $10 parlay. Well, mine would be 50, 75, 100, right? So they always knew that I bet bigger. I don't know what that is about me, but I don't think they knew what exactly was going on behind closed doors.
I finished up my degree in school, and the local casino by where I lived, probably about 20, 25 minutes away, was doing like a hiring event. And at that time, I was still a little bit in denial about the gambling addiction, but like I knew that it was a problem. I knew that like I couldn't go without playing. I knew that like my bets were getting bigger. The amount of money I was losing was getting bigger. I kind of thought, well, if I worked there, I'd get tired of it. Like if I just saw it all the time, if I worked there 40, 50 hours a week, I was here all week. I don't want to go back. Crazy enough, it was the opposite. So, I ended up going back to the casino, working there. My play really didn't drop. I would just go to the other casino. Michigan has a casino like every, hour. I mean, it's just like everywhere you go, there's casinos all over the place. I think when I got there, I did work my way up pretty quickly. I mean, I went from just like a regular slot attendant all the way up to the casino host for slot players in about a 6-month time. I was a casino host for about almost 2 years before I ended up leaving the casino industry. When I first started, I really started to watch some of these like high limit slot players, like what machines they were playing. And again, it kind of started stirring up my curiosity of, well, I saw this guy win this much, or I saw her win $10,000. Like, wow, like you can win a lot. Like that'd be awesome if I were able to do it. And you always start tricking yourself into, well, I'll only go if this much. And it's like the more money I made, the more money I'd play. About $1 spin, then you move up to 3, then you move up to 5. It's really, really hard to go back. And I found myself, and this is where I would say like the crazier stories can start coming up is, I'd work an 8-hour shift, at the casino that I work at. Now, as a casino host, I was not allowed to play on the floor, and I would drive hour and a half to the next casino at midnight, after my shift, and go play there for the whole night, and get a room and drive back, early the next morning, wreak havoc on your health. But like the addiction was so strong, like you're around it for 8 hours. You're like, oh, like I want it to be me. I want to be the one playing. I want the opportunity to potentially win, makes you drive an hour and a half to the next casino at midnight to go blow your whole check.
I lost a lot. I lost my marriage. I lost my home. I lost my country. I didn't have any friends remaining because I had to move back to the United States when he divorced me. I was homeless. I didn't have self-esteem. I didn't feel fit. Like I'd lost my health. I weighed about 100 pounds more than this. Gambling felt really good at that point. Like that's all I had to just get through the day. So I wanted to do it more than ever. Hitting a bottom is where the gambling will be like, oh, I see that you were really suffering. I have a solution for that. Would you like to not suffer? Just a gulp of relief for the day? And it's like, I would like that, please. Thank you. So he really only gave me, I don't know, enough money to get a hotel for a week or two. I put that in a machine the minute I got off the plane arriving in, coincidentally, Las Vegas. I don't know who booked the tickets. I'll assume me. Actually hit like a tiny jackpot-y thing there, which as we know sort of feeds that like irrational thought of, yeah, this is a money-making potential activity. So that kind of kept up as I was homeless. My partner and I were just going for a walk yesterday, and I was like, oh, I used to live there. It's like, well, that's a store. And I'm like, yeah, that used to be a youth hostel. And I stayed there for a week, the maximum amount of time you can, for $38 a night before you need to move it on down the road. And so I'd been through all the youth hostels as I gambled my way around town. And then again was planning on how I was going to end my life, because it was just so empty and lonely and felt so hopeless.
When Daily Fantasy came out in like the early 2010s, I was like, let's see what this is all about, because I would do my research. I'd put so much time and effort into these lineups and just wasted so much of my early 20s. I came into 6 figures of money in March of 2017, and I never really had money like that. My jobs have always been like middle of the tier. Like I live paycheck to paycheck. So that kind of was my downfall. My ship came in. My dad always said, Jeff, your ship came in. It sailed. I chased that from 2017 till 2023.
Yeah, so people were telling you after you had this big win, that's like, that should be enough. You're set for life. Everything's perfect now. But it didn't feel like it was enough for you?
It was like fake money. It didn't feel real. It never when I'm gambling, nothing feels real. It feels like I'm playing with Monopoly money, and it's gonna just keep refilling the tank, so to speak. Once the well runs dry, you try bankruptcy, you try this, you try that, you go through all these things that obviously you start clean and then you dig yourself deeper. So I just kept digging the hole, and it was just a terrible way to live. Fast forward to 2018, I meet my now wife at the time. She's a sweet girl, great girl, had no issues with anything. She's pure as can be, the best person in the world. I lie to her about everything. I lie to her about how much I gamble, how much I spend, all sorts of things like that. And she's thinking, we're going to build a future. We're going to do all these great things. And here I am pissing it all down the toilet. And I still struggle to live with that because the deceitful things that I was doing.
Thank you for watching, and thanks again to these 10 people for sharing their stories on the podcast. If you or a loved one is struggling with gambling addiction, then I want you to check out this video next, where I dive into exactly what I did to quit. Let's keep getting better together, one day at a time.